Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Car Pod.
I'm Kenan.
I'm Filippo.
And today we have a special show.
Ooh.
Specifically, we're not doing news. And that's because I'm in Europe. You're watching this, and I look like I'm here, but I'm actually traveling with my family. And so we pre-recorded this show, and so we can't talk about the news because we don't know what it is.
You excited to drive around in a Ford Galaxy?
They don't make that anymore. Haven't for 20 years. But yeah, I am generally excited. So I'm not here, but we are still podcasting. We have a whole show, and it's great, and it's better than the one we just recorded. But it doesn't have the news. So we're going to start with other non-newsy items.
Great.
So we will begin, instead of news, with discussing automotive happenings in our lives. I have the most important one, possibly we've ever discussed on the show.
The most newsy, for sure.
It is newsy, actually. Yeah.
Yep.
I drove the new Toyota Camry.
Wow, thrilling.
That is not all that exciting. The exciting part is I was the first person to drive the new Toyota Camry the world.
It had 0 miles?
In the world.
They all have 0 miles?
Okay, look.
No test mules?
Toyota people had driven it before.
Got it.
But the man said
Thank
to
you
me
for clarifying.
that I am the first outside of the Toyota umbrella, plus probably some of their spouses and the guys at the press car companies who moved them around, and a few truck drivers who took them on and off trucks, and the people at the factory who moved. Other than them,
Yeah.
I was the first.
Do you think they tell that to everybody?
How does it feel to be the 27th person to drive?
Probably like 850th. No, I don't think they tell it to everybody. I had this Toyota's against giant product launch going on in San Diego. They just finished it, and I had a weird schedule for it, so I could get content for all the cars. All the video journalists had like a weird schedule, and I just happened to be first in the Camry. Now, because of the embargo, they all go up at the same time. No one will know that I'm first, so I wanted to brag in this moment. This car, they will sell millions of these.
Yep.
You're going to see them on the
Fewer
road for
now than
decades
before,
to come.
Yeah.
I will not notice one of them.
You will not be able to tell that it's the new one. That's
Every
okay.
time you see one, you will think,
Is that the new one or
drove
the old one?
that
Is the first
first.
thought. And then you'll think about Doug.
I think I was also the first person to drive the Crown Signia, but we will not see any of those. So
No. Retirement communities will have plenty.
I don't agree. The Toyota Camry has been conquered by me.
Bully for you.
All right, moving on. You don't think this is interesting? If you were the first person to drive some car, you'd be like, oh, that's cool. So I drove the new Camry, and what did I think of it? It was a Camry. And I met the chief engineer, who was very nice, and he talked to me
What
about
was
it.
his name?
But I think ultimately the Camry is just, like it's a tremendously good car that's going to carry an enormous amount of people around. But
Yeah.
from a
It's a normal-
excitement standpoint,
Or it's kind of supposed to be mundane and normal and just
Right.
good at being a car.
And it will be.
and that's what
you
it
know,
was great at that.
No issues, just like...
And it's hybrid only.
Which is the first time.
The Camry's hybrid only. The Sienna is hybrid only.
That's right.
Everything's changing now. The ground is shifting beneath our feet.
It
The
is
Land
going
Cruiser is
from
hybrid
a
only.
4-cylinder without a hybrid to a 4-cylinder with a hybrid.
But Toyota's been
ground
pretty
is
vocal
changing.
about they don't want to go to full... They don't necessarily believe, it seems, in going to full electric. They believe hybrid
And
is...
the
like, just like the
BZ4X
future.
shows that.
Proves that. It turns out that's a compliance car. I didn't realize this. Okay.
Do they need to have an EV?
They have to have an EV to sell cars in California. State of California requires that all automakers have to have an EV in order to sell here, which is why the Fiat 500e came out and various other EVs. The MX-30, but now they have the CX-90, so they got rid of the MX-30.
So plug-in hybrid is enough.
Plug-in hybrid is apparently
then
okay.
Toyota had a Prius.
Yeah, they had a plug-in Prius. That's a good point. They don't anymore. So,
Yes, they do.
there was a period where it didn't exist. Anyway, the point is,
Not factually accurate.
Subaru also needed one, and so
Subaru
they
does
thought
need
to
one.
themselves, hey, look, let's make a trash car that is awful.
Nobody will buy them, and we don't have to deal with that ever again.
Yeah, so they teamed up to make the lowercase b, uppercase z, number 4, uppercase x, which is the worst car on sale. And I made a video where I said it was the worst car on sale, and then people said, hey, it's a compliance car, which to me doesn't excuse it, by the
No.
way. Just because they should still try to make it good.
Right. Aston Martin Signet. Compliance car. Good.
No,
Cool.
that was probably the worst compliance car ever. But other than that, it's a good point that you make.
But it was also the most compliancy car ever, so it also is the best in a way.
It was
It is exemplary of what it was supposed
right.
to be.
Yeah. It was almost malicious in its compliance.
Right.
It's flagrant, yeah.
So anyway, that's the situation with the Camry. I agree, it's not particularly exciting, but I will remember every time I get in an uber new Camry that I was.
Well,
the
first you'll have to look at the front end to tell. Because getting into the car from the side will not be enough
I actually saw a few of
information.
them at the event the next day, and it does look pretty different. I'll say to the guy, I'll say to the Uber driver, I'll be like, hey, I was the first guy to drive this car. He'll be like, I don't. This isn't something. Come on.
I'm renting it from Enterprise just to drive as an Uber. It's not a thing.
I'm glad in your illustrious career you were able to add that feather to your cap. That you were the first one.
Is that where you're most proud of in your career? Have you never been the first to drive?
I probably have, actually.
Just didn't tell you.
But I was told this time, and so it's meaningful to me.
What else would you been? You were like the first person to do a review of the Bronco.
Often because I have to have kind of a weird schedule at these press launches, I often am the first, actually. But they don't tell me that, and sometimes other weird things have already occurred with the car.
But you did the Bronco and the Maverick static before anybody else, right?
Static. Yeah, the Bronco I did under an overpass, and the Maverick I did at a man's house.
I remember.
So the man
Sam was there.
No, the man didn't drive it. He had his house on one of those. This is off on a tangent, but it's a great story. He had his house on one of those. There's like websites where you can submit your house for like filming. Like if movies want to use it, you can like put your house in, and then they can. Yeah. And so Ford found him and paid him like $1,000 for me to come to his house that day. Wow. They dropped it off from a truck, pulled it into his driveway. I filmed it in his driveway with his like dogs running around. This is an official Ford shoot, and this dude's like Australian cattle dog is like barking.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, and that was the Maverick.
Better than overpass, whichever.
That was weird, yeah. But it was remote controlled and it wouldn't go up any hills.
Right. Finite set of options.
You know, remember when they debuted the Bronco and it had a hole in the door with like glass in it, and it was like, damn, we're going to get this cool glass door hole thing? That never happened. No. That never occurred. Okay, so that's my thing, which is better than any of yours.
Yep.
Go ahead.
All right. So I've mentioned this to each of you because we are friends outside of the podcast, generally, except for when we're not. In my life, I've generally bought poor examples of cars. I look for the cheapest.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to spend money.
Right.
For my like family car, we spent some money, but even that was cheap.
Right.
And my fun cars, which have been a Miata that I bought for $3,000. And sold for $3,000. An E53 X5 with a stick that I bought for $4,000. This Fiat 500 Abarth that's in front of me is the second most I've ever spent on a car. Period.
And what was that? $11,000.
$250.
$11,250. He knows it down to the dollar.
Correct.
Remembers it.
Still misses it.
There.
I mean the money, but anyway.
I am debating whether it's time for me to spend more money on a car.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that like looks like. Like,
No,
what would I buy if I were willing to spend more money?
I know what you should get. The answer for you
By the way, more money for me is different than more money for you.
I know this vaguely because you were discussing yesterday, but I feel like an E450 All-Terrain is probably the...
For a fun car? My family car is not changing. It's going to remain...
my E450 All-Terrain to be tremendously
fun. It's going to remain... Our other car will remain a Mercedes-Benz E350 wagon.
Keep up with an F40. I mean, the F40 is being driven gingerly, of course.
I'll tell you this. I don't think that you should spend more. I like having a cheap friend, Filippo. I like being able to say to people, I know this guy who goes to 3 different grocery stores to find apples at a cheaper price. Some
grocery stores have better apples for a better price. I'm not going to reward that? What am I?
You know what's going to happen?
He goes to 4 grocery stores to get 12 cents off an apple. I like that about you. I don't. If you broke from this tradition, what would happen to our lives?
The reality, what I've kind of realized
I
is,
wonder if you would just like acquiesce. It's like it's too nice. I can't. I had to sell it and get something cheap again. I just had to go back to what I know.
That's my fear because like $11,000, you can't lose money. I mean, maybe you'll lose $1,000. I'll sell that 500 Abarth even if I take zero care of it as I do for $9,500.
Right.
Like that. There's like a cap on how much I can lose.
Yeah.
But if let's say I bought a 996.
Yeah.
$20,000 for like a mediocre one, which is obviously what I would buy.
Okay, a tip.
Tip cab. Manual. A tip cab is like 15. By the way.
Damn, that's a deal.
I can't I'm still not gonna lose that much money because there's still a floor on these. Like I could spend more, and still be protected.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel that way about.
So
listen, I feel like you get a Ford GT, man.
Well, I would care a little bit more about that. I parked the car in the garage, which wouldn't actually fit a car much bigger than my 500 Abarth. But I did move from parking in the driveway to parking in the garage recently. I could fit something else.
Yeah.
But I just have never considered spending money on a car.
It would anger me if you did this.
Okay. So I shouldn't buy a C7 Corvette.
Okay, all right.
He's been obsessed. What
about a C5 Corvette?
Maybe you should let him scratch the itch. Maybe let him scratch. Filippo, our friend Filippo here.
No, I have a better idea. Turo one for a week.
Yeah, yes.
Just do that.
That's so good.
And then at the end of that, if you still like,
Which you will
still
not.
won't, which you definitely won't. But if you did, then you can.
I'm not
you can
willing
pursue.
to spend the money.
That's
to
so true. You
Turo
wouldn't
it.
spend.
And if you're not willing to do that, you're
Well,
not willing to.
it's very different. Why would I spend $500 to Turo for a week or whatever it costs? No idea.
When I can spend
then
40.
But like, even if I spend 40, how much am I going to lose? I don't like it after
But
6 months. I won't lose
the
that much more.
pain
Why
of
am I losing $600?
going through the
Lose
registration
more than
process.
$500.
But barely.
So
You're not going to Montana it, so you're going to pay sales tax on it.
You're right. I am not
The
used
time-
to sales tax primarily because
Yeah, he's never paid
I'm
sales
not-
tax. He paid like $600 of sales tax. Most of you ever paid on any
But
car.
yeah, it's just like not even. It doesn't even factor in.
it actually doesn't because I buy such cheap cars. It doesn't matter.
And then you're also it's at the time to register it and do the smog and like all this stuff. Like you're just not gonna.
Well, in California, the seller is required.
Who says? Well, yeah, but you're cheap. You could buy that car from Colorado. Oh, it was less. It was in Colorado. You just. I think you should at least for a couple of days. Like
For those who aren't, Filippo is an odd contradiction. All he ever talks about is little European hatchbacks. He really plays into his Italian heritage, and he's like, oh,
I drive a little European
what I really
convertible."
want is a Fiat Panda that's just.
I do.
And
I
I
would love
walk
a Fiat
everywhere,
Panda.
and I bike everywhere
Now-
because I don't. And now he's over here like, I want a C7.
Well, he got that. He got that veterans plate, and he's just like, you know. we
I
support
want
our
to
troops.
give me a C7.
Well, okay, here's here's my point. First of all,
V8 Honda.
Corvettes are cool. C5 is also somewhere in my mind, and those are 10 grand.
I agree that Corvettes are cool, and yes,
and also,
get a C5.
But
like
it's just not-
I hadn't. My Miata was too shitty. It didn't was too bad. Miata was too bad. It didn't satisfy my rear-wheel drive desire. I drive a front-wheel drive car. The next one I feel like should be a more
Can I tell you
powerful
something I have-
rear-wheel drive car.
learned about you.
Yeah,
You've had a lot of these cars. You've not liked any of them.
I like the Fiat. That's the first one.
You've been talking
Okay,
for-
finally you get a little Italian hatchback, and that's what you like. So maybe
Yeah,
a
but I don't love
C7 isn't the answer.
But how would I know till I own it for a year?
Well, you had an NB and you didn't
But you
like
could
it. You had a
rent
Stick
it for
X5
a
and you
week.
didn't like it.
To be fair,
You've bought a lot of
my NB was not a good NB.
well,
It was $3
that's
grand
because
for a
you pulled a
reason.
Filippo and
Yeah.
bought it on Craigslist with a back
In
window
like
that was
deep
caving in.
rural Maryland, it was quite something.
I mean, this is the thing.
For a guy selling it for his friend's ex-wife who had died. It's quite a situation.
Filippo.
Let's say I want to spend money though. What would I buy? What should I consider?
You want a performance car?
I don't want an E450 All-Terrain to go alongside my E350 wagon.
That's
the
a
best
great
car I've ever
great combination for you.
I don't need a second one that does the exact same thing. I'm not you
Sell
that
both your
has
cars,
that
get
has
the
a
E450.
silver
Well,
sport.
keep the Fiat, get rid of the other, upgrade the Mercedes, upgrade the daily driver.
That's more expensive. That'll depreciate too much.
I would love it if you got a Corvette. I think that'd be cool as hell. If we knew someone with a
So you're allowed to
C7.
say that.
He'll have it for like 2 seconds.
I think a C7 is cool, and it would be a great baseline for a lot of the
Unfortunately,
videos we do on the channel. Plus, it
Unfortunately,
could
it's
go-
too expensive.
It's too expensive.
They're still 40 grand.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, nobody buys that. You buy that?
Let's
You
luckily we
can
have-
get to high 30s.
Pull up C7.
book all the
With a stick, please. I'm not buying an auto.
You want
Here's a 7-seat stick, bid to 33.
Yeah, but it sold for more than that.
manual. Let's see.
29,450.
All right, that was a
37.
Okay. Maybe
And that one had that was Z51 and 2LT.
I would have bought that. I should have bought that.
How many miles did that have? What was?
Must have been a
why was
lot.
it been so low?
Not
Oh, yeah,
90,000
90,000.
miles.
I would buy a
So
90
you would
grand.
buy that.
90,000
Man,
miles.
can you imagine
in
with those
Missouri.
chrome wheels? I will
First year.
pitch in for your New Balances.
See, dude,
Oh, I need new
C7
shoes. That'd be great.
Still looks cool.
It looks so good.
But it's just so. I mean, I understand. I said that I
What's
want
the
a Viper,
cheapest
but
C7 we've had? Just for curiosity.
Cheapest C7 with a stick.
I got a.
it was that.
It was that one. All right, cool.
Yeah, cheapest
Um,
C7 with a stick. But I mean, 33,
recent, though.
37. I mean,
They've all been recent. They're coming down.
They do hold their value enough.
Yeah.
But do I want that? I don't know.
No.
No.
There is
Do
nobody I know
want
would
a
less
99
fit into that
do
car
I
than
want a
you.
996?
Let me
Like,
yet
what do I
again
want?
You don't want to spend money on cars. You don't want to spend money.
That's so true.
What you want to do is look at your bank account, and I think that makes you as happy as cars make us.
I think
I feel like I gotta fit in better.
I think the best one for you would be a nice 986 Boxster. Is
I
probably
want
good
4
choice.
seats, which the Corvette doesn't have.
I want 4 right. So,
But
thank you for that.
Corvette coupes have a hatchback, and that counteracts.
That counts as a seat in your world.
Okay, we're moving on
All right.
from this ridiculous.
So that got
topic.
me nowhere.
Well, again, I will say Turo is your friend. Go rent something.
I agree with him. You should throw something for a couple days, a couple $100, and then you figure it out. And then you avoid making a mistake that's going to be costly. Because I agree, there's a ton of transaction costs. You're going to find it somewhere else. You're gonna have to fly to go and get it. I will not come with you under any circumstances. You're gonna have to pay title and registration and sales tax and all that stuff.
Can I get just one more minute of suggestions of what I should consider? If I'm willing to spend 20 to 30,
Well,
that's like 996
I mean, the fact that you've got
category. I don't want a 986 Boxer. That's
You know what
12
you should
grand.
get?
I'm trying to get outside of this world.
well, that's $1,000 more than you spent.
You know what you should get for 20 to 30? Fiat Multipla and import it, or an A2 with Rami. I'll help you. I will help you.
I can't title in California. And
I will title it
Maybe
Montana
so.
to me.
I would buy a Fiat Multipla.
I'll go. I'll throw some cash towards this.
So-
I will
there was no
legit throw
but.
some cash toward this.
I don't want an A2 as a child.
I
My
want
father rear-ended an A2.
Still trauma.
There's still trauma here.
I gave him the answer to this.
That's not a sports car, but
But I
it's
gave him
fine.
a good method of figuring it out.
Kevin,
congratulations.
Kenan, wow. I
Wow.
can't.
Oh,
Kenan-
you want to roll that one back there? That is the most offensive thing you could call me, I think.
I'm
You know
sorry,
that.
Kevin.
Bad.
Jeez.
Your friend here is.
Kenan, tell us something.
Tell us something. So, as you and I know, as BMW historians and lovers of the brand, at one point in time they made a car with a V16. It's called the Goldfish.
The V16 was called the Goldfish.
No,
No,
the
the
car
car
was
it was
the
an
Goldfish.
E32 7 Series that BMW wanted to develop a 16-cylinder engine because they
Why?
had done so with the 750. They wanted
Right. They had done.
They wanted more power.
An inline
And-
6, a V8, a V12.
They
They're like, we need
the
16.
next logical conclusion was 16. So
Really,
so they
14 is
wanted
kinda
to.
the next logical one.
A little bit
No,
of
you
history
can't
here.
have two 7-cylinder Filippo for reasons you won't understand. You can't.
Wait, explain it to me.
Okay, the primary and secondary imbalances in a 7-cylinder engine,
Oh,
it would be
okay.
so unbalanced and bad. The
Like-
firing
like-
would be-
like we
there
do
are
with,
no
like-
14-cylinder engines.
But there
for
are
a reason.
3-cylinder engines.
No. Okay,
And those are imbalanced. We figured that out.
Yeah, but that's not
I'm
7.
picturing.
3, 6, 6, 12. Those work. 7, no. 9, no.
There's 5.
Yeah, and it's not balanced at all. It's the amount of work it takes to balance that
an 8 and a
crankshaft.
6. It's perfectly
Just to
balanced.
be clear, by the way, the history of this V16 is kind of an interesting
Yes.
thing.
Well,
The history of the reason they wanted a V16, since you're making a thing out of it. In '89, BMW came out with a 750 IL with a V12.
Yeah, I remember it.
It
distinctly.
was a huge deal because Mercedes-Benz was not planning to make a V12 S-Class.
right.
And when BMW came out with a V12 7 Series, Mercedes-Benz went back to the drawing board and they were like, "Holy crap!" I'm explaining to him. He's not paying any attention.
I'm paying attention to it. Like, look at the car that's up there.
It's insane. It's insane. So BMW started the V12
Yeah.
full-size sedan thing.
Yep.
The S-Class, that they only ever
Right.
had done V8s before that. Then they did a V12, and then BMW was like,
One more. Hit him again.
and here we are. So
Now
the
I have
Goldfish.
a little bit of background on this car because I really think it's important. So the engine was designed by Adolf Fisch. He designed the V12 as well that was found in the 7 Series. And
Goldfish.
That's why it was called the Goldfish.
that is yes, that is.
I was
that is one of the
assuming because
reasons.
it was
also
heinous.
it's because it has
And
gills
gills.
for the
Yeah,
intake.
and it's gold. That's why I was.
But that's why it's called
brown.
gold. That's why Fish is spelled Fisch for his last name, Fish. But anyway, what's cool is I actually met his daughter, who
Oh.
got picked up from
Emily?
school in this car.
I didn't assume it could carry passengers. The motor's in the back, right?
No, so the engine's in the front, but because they couldn't fit the cooling in the engine compartment because the engine's so big,
No way!
they put all the cooling in the back. That's why you can
That's why
see
it
the
has that.
radiators.
So
That's
all
why it
the
has-
cooling is back here, and then they have to like pipe that up front. How did they ever? I mean, no wonder they didn't go into production.
Well, they didn't go into production for that exact reason. But
Yeah.
but so the reason I bring this, let me finish. So the engine was developed like kind of in secret. It was actually assembled in their basement, in the Fish basement. That's where they like tested it. Like
Like
he was
the Fish
assigned to
family
build
basement?
Yeah.
Or- wow.
And the daughter told me some
build
crazy stories. And she
V16.
drives an E31 850i. Works for BMW Classic. Lives in Munich. Drives it every day. Very cool. But anyway,
Stick?
yes, stick. Which this was also, by the way.
No
Well,
way! This
yeah,
is
the Goldfish
You could row
is
your
the-
own in a
I
16
mean, I'm
Goldfish
sure-
is a
I'm sure
16,
that they
yeah.
didn't have an automatic that could handle it.
That's probably true, but yeah, the Goldfish, boom, there you go. There it is.
Wow.
6-speed manual
What is that steering wheel?
transmission. Not good.
I've driven an E32. It didn't have anything close to
But-
that. That's the E32 steering wheel.
Yeah, that's the normal E32 steering wheel.
But that's an
There's-
E38.
yeah,
That's the one that, by the way, to cut here, I'm sorry, but that's what he was referring to. I think the E38. You don't even know.
No.
I
no.
do. I wasn't saying it. It's close
No,
enough.
so here,
Okay, so you'll get to this.
yes, this is where I'm going next. So
Okay.
we know about the Goldfish.
Yeah.
BMW recently, like within the last week when this was filmed, said no, there was another one. We realized that not having a trunk kind of a problem. So they tried to make they tried to continue to develop a 16-cylinder
on that
car.
outside
I think this was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can click on that. Oh, type it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they continued
Wow.
with the 32, and with these bizarre headlights. But
yeah, what? Oh,
they-
because they had to elongate.
because they longed the front. To
Is there a
fit the
side
engine.
shot? Go down.
But I mean, this is incredibly recent. BMW just brought this, like, just mentioned this. It's
scrolling.
why they hit it
That was a regular
as a
one.
regular one.
Keep going. We'll see if we can get it.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a side profile picture of it or not. That's
I've seen them.
the
Keep
goldfish.
going.
That's the
There's
goldfish.
the goldfish. Okay. There we go.
There it is.
Wow.
Look how.
So wait,
long.
this isn't an E38?
No, this isn't. It isn't, right? This isn't.
They said it was completed in 1990.
Yeah.
So no, it was definitely not an
No,
E38. It looks
was-
like one though.
It was between.
It was
Sounds
yes.
like-
So I guess E38 kind of came out of this, like
They,
a
it
lot of
must
the
have. I mean, they
styling.
looks
Yeah.
like they got some inspiration for the E38 from
But
this.
it's-
The rear end and the front end look
Sounds
very
like-
E38.
But
I
yeah,
think
but there's a
reading
lot
the
of
article.
E38.
It was developed at the same time as the E30 was coming out, so they used some.
This is a heinous car.
It's not good looking.
No.
It actually has a little bit of Lagonda in there too.
Yeah, it
Like,
does.
But the fact that it also is mind blowing to me that this car was hidden and no one knew about it.
Yeah, what's that
What
about?
else is hiding down there in their storage
The
facility
Fish's basement.
in Germany? Yeah, yeah. But
No,
yeah,
but like
so-
really,
but-
I wonder
no.
about that too.
so
That's
they
interesting.
so they were clearly anticipating doing it, but for whatever reason, I'm guessing that it was too
I mean,
expensive.
whatever
decided not
reason,
to.
there are so many reasons.
But also think about this: the 7 Series, like the 750, the V12 at the time, a very expensive car. You're already selling a very expensive car to your top client list. To say there's another one on top of that, your market's going to be pretty finite. So the tooling to make this,
It
I'm
was
sure
an
have
it
been
was an
inordinate.
insane concept, but I think the thinking was BMW was so hell bent on taking the full size sedan realm from Mercedes-Benz at the time because it was Mercedes like thing, and BMW was coming for Mercedes. And I think the thinking was we got to go one up. Everything they do, we got to do one better. And eventually, I think they just kind of gave up. I think they realized like we're always going to be known for the 3 Series and the 5 Series, and then eventually the SUVs. And Mercedes is always going to own the S Class, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's fair to recognize.
So
one.
they called it Goldfish SCH after the fella.
yes, after
That's
the
so
fella.
funny.
Why gold?
But also, I will say BMW did continue. No, it was called that. It looked like a fish because it had the gills. But the BMW did, of course,
Sounds
continue
very German
development
to,
of
like,
the
have
16.
nameplay.
The man's name. I mean, it worked. Goldfish. His name was Fish. I mean, that's like
It had gills and it was kind of gold.
the other. BMW did continue development of the 16-cylinder engine. That was what they were going to put in the original Phantom when they bought Rolls-Royce. They were going to, and they did with a couple of those. And Rowan Atkinson famously has a Phantom Coupe with a 16-cylinder engine in it.
Really?
But for whatever reason, again, they decided it was too expensive, and so they scaled back and they all have 12 cylinders to
Wow.
this day. But,
Interesting.
But nonetheless, this was a 16-cylinder BMW that nobody knew about until recently.
Can we buy this?
One wonders, what do they want for it? You know?
They never sell cars like this, but I want to buy
They
a
don't.
one-off so bad from an automaker, and no one has ever pursued that. No one has ever allowed me to do
Even a
that.
towel design would not
Even a
sell
Tal design.
you
Want somebody to call them? It's the ugliest car of all time. Which, by the way, was powered by a BMW.
12-cylinder engine.
Wasn't it? Was it? Yeah.
It was the M70
It was.
V12.
Yeah. That's right. It was.
Which is the
in
one that
McLaren F1 engine.
Fish
It
designed.
was in the McLaren F1 and the Tal design 2-level minivan. I forgot about that.
Right. Right.
That's-
I don't have enough energy to argue about that today. But, yeah, there it is.
Okay, that is bizarre and crazy. Okay, so
Corvettes,
since we've
nice.
discussed vehicles, let's now discuss vehicles more with a market report.
All right.
All right.
Which would...
What you got? Let's talk about the Cadillac Eldorado convertible.
Yeah, the Cadillac Eldorado convertible right-hand drive market is strong. Can you click on that car? So we sold,
I should also note it is a very small market.
it's a small market. It's a
small
car.
supply. Yeah.
So we sold this car recently for $27,500. It's a
What is this car?
1995
Yeah.
Cadillac Eldorado that was converted to a convertible because for some reason Cadillac didn't make Eldorado convertibles, and then it was converted
That's a
to
great point. Why didn't
It's insane. And
Because
then-
the Elante was such a huge success.
Yeah, right.
that's probably why they saw the Elante. They were like, we don't want
They
any part
didn't
of this
realize
crap.
that the Elante was the
That was the problem. And then it was converted to right-hand drive. And I actually don't know that that was the order. It may have been right-hand drive first and then convertible, but regardless, this happened. And so this is kind of the least factory way to own.
Although they did a
I
great
love that
job with that.
they turned the gear shifter
Yeah.
so that it would fit your left hand
To
better.
make it even more ridiculous, this car only has 900 miles on it. So someone did an enormous amount of work to customize the car to exactly what they wanted. and then never drove it ever.
The dead bugs are tough. Yeah.
There's dead bugs. The bugs got to experience it at least.
They did that conversion well.
So
Someone
in the
spent
comments, in the comments, people were like, "Yeah, there were companies that were doing right-hand drive Eldorado conversions. It was pretty common." I'm like, "What? What?" Apparently,
This
some
for the
markets.
Philippines, right?
This one was reportedly shipped to Malaysia, but the seller claimed it never left. But some markets apparently wanted Eldorados because it was this big American luxury coupe. It was
What's
kind of
that?
a cool car at the time. And you couldn't get them in a lot of these places because they didn't sell it in right-hand drive, and so some of them were converted. And this one had both of the conversions done. I've always felt the Eldorado convertible conversions look quite nice.
Yeah.
This is a front-wheel drive car, believe it or not. And
This little curve in the upper windshield here is a
Quite
little
something.
odd, but otherwise not
It
bad.
works out.
Not too bad.
well, you know, when a car wasn't ever
Right.
conceptualized as a convertible,
Oh, I understand.
the convertible converter has to take some liberties, and boy, do they.
Are any front-wheel drive Cadillacs desirable?
No, because they all had
The
all
North
the
Star,
big
yeah.
ones had the North Star. So
What-
this
what
car
about-
at
I'm just
900
thinking,
miles,
like-
the North Star probably has another 500 miles left in it.
I think just generally, are there any that are good,
Yes,
that are desirable?
yes.
Like what? Like this one.
I'm gonna hit you with one.
Okay.
Saab 94X.
Hard to argue with that.
Got it.
That was a Cadillac.
Do you know what the Cadillac was called, Kenan?
No.
What was it? It was the SRX. Wait, but it wasn't. It was the XT5, wasn't it?
No, it was the SRX at the time.
Oh, and then they just flipped the name and made it Hayner.
There's a new generation, they would say, but yeah.
Anyway, the point is, I wanted to mention this because the market for these is strong. If you have a right-hand drive convertible converted Cadillac Eldorado,
With 900 miles.
Cars and Bids is the place we will get you all the money for it.
Now, if you don't, it's worth $6,500. But
Wow,
we still
wait, that's not the only convertible we've hosted.
Oh wow!
Not only is it worth $6,500, but this is the collector's. This is the final model year, very best one in existence, and they go for $6,400.
Numbered.
And you're thinking to yourself, well, maybe it's a high mileage car. Does a low mileage one do better? No, because here's one at 49,000 miles. They got to $7,100. So the collector series, that was an aspirational name, and it did not turn out to be true.
I can't believe we also did another convertible.
And by the way, why are they numbered, but the numbering is out of 1596? Because that's how many badges the supplier gave them. I mean, there's no reason why this trash.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
man.
That is your Cadillac Eldorado story of the day.
Can we talk about a different type of convertible?
Yeah,
All right. In 2023,
23.
the 3 best-selling convertibles.
Yeah.
Guess what in the U.S. Guess what they were?
I already know because I
You already
looked
know.
on the
Ken,
doc, and
guess
this is
what
a
they were.
great point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would have thought Mustang would have been up.
Yeah,
there.
Mustang.
Nope.
You don't. That's really not
Really not.
okay.
Really?
Really.
That is surprising. What are
You have one more guess before I'm telling you. Guess quickly.
Number one, I know has always been this car.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
I have no
Wrangler, Bronco,
Oh, SUVs.
Gladiator.
Gladiator outsold the Mustang.
idea. Yeah, that's hard to
Apparently.
believe.
How?
It's possible that the Ford breaks it out differently, but
Unless Ford is counting
Well, maybe because Mustang
it's
had
also
a weird year. 'cause
It
there
was that
a new
final
one
year.
and an old one,
But like,
okay.
this seems like
those are the 3 best-selling convertibles, all SUVs or trucks.
Yeah.
that's
Everybody's
is
giving me
the-
crap for owning all these SUV convertibles.
That is what's hot.
I'm a
Now,
trendsetter.
of course, you could have bought, instead of a Defender, you could have bought a Wrangler. Instead of a G-Cab, you could have bought a Wrangler. You chose not to, which we'll talk about in a minute. But are regular convertibles just undesirable, dead? Does anybody care?
When I was a kid, the Chrysler Sebring
Good
was
car.
unbelievably popular.
There was everywhere.
everywhere.
Truly. I can't picture a non-convertible Chrysler Sebring of that generation.
Yeah, they were around.
Like,
but they're
I can, but, like,
incredibly
Nobody
uncommon.
bought. Yeah, nobody
Right.
wanted
The
that.
convertibles
Nobody
were
bought the
everywhere.
Dodge Avenger coupe. They bought the Sebring convertible.
And then the 200, because reading the 200, they still offered a convertible, and then it died. But it's hard to believe because
Buick
the
Cascada.
LeBaron was, even before the Sebring, the LeBaron was around, and it was just as popular. But all that's gone.
Buick Cascada.
The only
Cascade,
convertible
whatever.
car that sells in big numbers is the Mustang.
Yeah.
And then some luxury. I mean, it's still, convertibles are still fairly
Z4.
popular in the luxury world. Well, a lot of really high-end cars are convertibles.
Yeah.
Sure, but in regular cars you could buy. Apparently nobody's buying them.
Yeah.
That is hard.
It's
to
also been an
believe.
interesting trend. For a while we had the hard the regular roof convertibles, the non-soft top ones, hard top convertibles became popular.
Yeah.
Then all the mechanisms broke and became incredibly expensive to repair. And now we're back to soft top. Do people just want something different?
You know what
Is
I've
it
heard?
sunroof?
I've
Have
had
they,
automakers tell me that the soft top the transition back to soft top convertibles is because it looks cooler.
Yeah.
It looks like a convertible.
That's fair.
And because with modern technology advances, they've been able to eliminate the wind noise in a soft top as much as they had previously in a hard top. Like Bentley never ditched the soft top because like a soft top convertible is just like the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And
well,
that's kind of true.
Well, they lined it with cashmere. You know.
They lined it with cashmere. They were all good.
They figured it out. Turns out if you
Yeah.
just put a bazillion layers and you don't care about weight, no problem. Get rid of that
I
noise.
could have a Silver Lake cut and LGT.
Oh, Silver Lake Magnolia, the color combo.
Paris Hilton.
Mini
every
no
old
longer
person in
offers
Florida.
a convertible, do they? Is there still a Mini Cooper convertible?
I don't know Mini's lineup anymore.
nobody does.
It's too hard to keep it all
we
together.
live in Southern California, like the land that should have convertibles, and I just don't
I'm
see
just
new
like trying to
convertibles.
think of like what. Yeah, I mean,
Z4 is not a.
It is
attractive
interesting.
car.
I mean, I do think that, the people who have done it are still buying convertibles that switch to SUVs. It does give you an amazing ability to like be off-road, and that's why I like them. People make fun of me because I've had 2 of them in the last, but I love them because you can do anything with them.
Right.
You can go off-road. The G cab goes everywhere, and you can have a convertible.
Right.
You put the roof down, and
yep, not many convertibles with triple lockers.
hell yeah.
And the Sebring wasn't a sporty car. You don't buy the convertible version to have the sportiest.
No, but people thought that because it was a convertible, it was therefore
sporty.
There's
normal. Like
there's
people.
a dude in the next block from me who has a late Sebring convertible, washes it every weekend in his driveway.
Man,
like
that
he thinks he
Oh yeah,
has
no
it.
people.
dream.
Yeah, I remember
What
a lot of
dream.
those growing up.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
wow, that is so fascinating.
The
That's an
3
interesting
best-selling ones,
observation.
all trucks.
Yeah, with the convertible has switched to the truck. Goodbye to the regular convertible.
Goodbye to
What
the Chrysler
convertibles
Sebring.
are still on sale?
It's a great question.
New 4 Series, Z4, M4, 8 Series, which nobody buys, Mustang, which we said. Corvette, of course, is still offered as a convertible.
Sure,
Even
but
the
no,
Coupe
but-
is a
the
convertible.
Coupe is a
Right, the Coupe is more of a convertible than a convertible.
Camaro's gone. LC, nobody buys. A5, nobody buys. Mini Cooper is still available as
Oh,
a
is it
convertible.
really?
F-Type, which nobody buys. Miata is still sells pretty well.
Although
and
Miata had the worst sales year in 2023.
Boxster and 911. Yeah, but they just refreshed it.
Didn't help.
It's got headlights.
Boxster and that's it.
Didn't have
911.
headlights before.
Now it's got headlights.
But like-
that's why
That's
I
a
wasn't
pretty big
selling.
upgrade.
But
That's
it
why I
used to
wasn't
be
selling.
like Volvo had the C70 for a bit. Saab had 9.3 convertibles. Like I know I'm only naming a few luxury-esque automakers, but the S2000 existed.
There will
Camry,
soon be
Solara
another
convertible.
CLE. Yeah, the Solara convertible and the Sebring were like head to head,
Right,
and now the
like,
segment is
but
gone.
the segment's fully gone. It's dead.
When I was a kid, also, it wasn't uncommon for automakers to make convertible versions of just normal vehicles. Like the Chevy Cavalier had a convertible for a while.
Not a good one.
No, but that was like a
existed. Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that you would do.
Right. And nobody
For some reason.
No
People
more.
also had Landau tops. They wanted it to look like a convertible with the top.
Right.
Heck yeah.
Right. Which is why Cadillac should have made an Eldorado convertible.
Yeah, a lot of
As it
those
turns out.
Eldorados had Landau.
Yeah.
And they definitely should have made a convertible out of it.
Oh, fascinating observation.
On the subject of Jeeps,
Yeah, let's
I
talk
have
about
a
Jeeps.
market report observation.
Okay.
Can you go and type in Wrangler to the thing?
And maybe
What?
click the suggested result.
Something I'm fascinated by is that the Jeep Wrangler, old, nice Jeep Wranglers, don't really bring all that much money. I know they made a lot of them, but the one that really hit me, keep going down, the one that really hit me was this.
This one.
Yeah.
This little,
That's the
No, go back.
one below it.
This one.
Yeah.
This car
This
is lifetime
should have been.
California. It's got 12,000 miles and four-wheel drive.
It looks great.
It looks fantastic.
We should have bought this.
It sells
Why didn't
for
I buy this? I should have bought
$12,000.
this.
And people will be like, well, they make 300,000 Jeeps a year. Yeah, but they all end up rusty, modified, destroyed.
This had the bad engine, comparatively bad
It's
engine.
a four-cylinder.
Well,
I
I
didn't
get-
realize that. It's a good point.
I guess also
still.
like, but by the same token, sports utility. What is your use case for one with no miles? The whole point is to drive the
'Cause
thing
it's
and
cool.
also not care about it. You can't do either of those things with
Yeah,
this
but
one.
that
get it
hasn't
for
stopped
12.
somebody from buying a 12,000-mile 06 Corolla for way too much money.
Yeah, I mean, we sold the
Like,
Neon with
these are-
11 miles for more than this.
Right.
Go back.
These are weirdly desirable.
That one you clicked on also is kind of a
But
surprise.
go-
too.
go- go older.
$9,600. This car is still in pretty nice shape. Like,
Go
it
older.
surprises
that
me.
That one was in New Jersey, which might mean some rust.
Yeah, maybe
But-
148,000 miles. Yeah,
But wait, go older, because it's also true of much older.
Yeah, it
ones.
goes sort by year
Or
and
just filter to before 2000.
yeah, go back
Oh,
and
okay.
filter to before 2000. I agree with that. I'm like astonished by this. Every time I see this, I'm like, these cars are rare. And then look at this.
Right. Look
They
at that
don't bring any
$5,500.
money.
wow, they don't bring any money.
But
That's
they're in
crazy.
nice shape and they're very usable too. You can do anything with an old Wrangler.
I mean, and it's no less comfortable than a newer Wrangler.
Right. I actually enjoyed-
the new one is great.
I drove one of these Renegade Wranglers with the 4-liter straight six. I actually drove the very first one we ever sold, and I loved it. It's just such a honest,
Should I buy
simple,
a
basic
Wrangler?
car.
Oh
yeah,
my
dude,
God.
get a Wrangler. Get a 6-cylinder Wrangler with a stick, a TJ Wrangler with a stick.
This
Yeah,
is
that
fun to
one.
do.
Yeah.
I drove this car.
Back in the day,
I loved it.
I love those wheels personally. I think they look
Yeah,
really cool.
Jeep did those wheels on a few other cars.
They did build a ton, which is why prices haven't gone up.
It's
But,
hard
like,
to find nice ones.
it is hard to find nice ones, and nice ones
that-
don't bring the money.
You
it
didn't
seems.
buy that.
I know.
Purple. This one is purple.
I know.
Purple. It looks like it's in SoCal.
It does.
It looks like it's in Orange County.
It looks like it should be.
You should call the person.
Where is it?
It's,
No, I'm not. Gonna
It's
call
not.
it.
Oh, yeah,
Newport
it
Beach.
is Newport Beach.
But it is 4-cylinder again.
What are you going fast?
You told me I should get the 6.
You've never gone fast in your life. You should get the 6. The 4-liter is one of the God's great engines.
The 4-liter, yeah.
It really is.
But like, so they built a ton, but it is surprising that great older ones are undesirable.
It astonishes me. You see these old Land Rovers going for crazy money. You see old everything, Scouts, Broncos,
Yep.
all these cars, and Wranglers are not doing anything. Even if they're these cars are now 30 years old. They're getting to like classic status, and nobody cares about
Right.
it.
I mean that
even if they're really nice.
that 1997 Sahara 4x4, 53,000 miles, 16,000. That seems like a lot, but at the same time, what does a 1997 Land Rover Defender go for?
Yeah, I
90.
mean, they made a lot fewer Defenders, but
Someone can tell
old SUVs are in this giant renaissance, unless it's a Jeep, in which case people don't seem to care at all.
Probably because they built too many, and also, let's be honest, they looked identical for
Yeah,
about
but
20
a
years.
4-liter is the great.
I know,
is
I know,
God's
I know.
gift to powertrains. God came to us and He said, "Here, I'm going to give you 2 great powertrains: the 4-liter straight 6
Yep.
and the Bentley
I
W12,
knew
Nice.
you were going to say that.
and of course the Formula One derived V10 from the Carrera GT, which
Not
was used
a
in a
Formula-
Formula One car
It was not.
during testing.
It was never.
Footwork used it.
That is an interesting
Nope, they
observation.
didn't. So bad they couldn't.
They tested with it during one winter off season in Monza.
Not even that.
They had it at Goodwood briefly for an afternoon.
Nope, they went bankrupt first. They fired Porsche. That's how bad Porsche
They
was
did.
at the time.
They did fire Porsche. Okay, Kenan, you got a market report for us?
Yes. So another car that recently sold that I was surprised about. We recently talked about 991 Carrera as being a good value.
Yeah.
This Turbo S.
Yeah.
Now I understand PDK and it's a 14, so it's an early car.
Yeah.
And it had miles, 55,000 miles on it and had an accident, but still $90,000
That's 997 turbo money.
for
these are getting there.
560 horsepower.
And the PDK plus all the drive combo, these do 0 to 6 in like 2.8 seconds.
Yep, and they'll do it all day long.
Reliable cars, and you can tell this car is fairly reliable just by looking at it. There's no wear. Like this is just a well-built car.
Yeah.
When you look at a
Even the
Ferrari with
seat, look at
55,000 miles, it doesn't look like this. It looks
No, it
nice.
does not.
Porsches are designed. This is why I like sports cars from companies that make real cars, because they design cars to actually be used and to last. And this is a great example.
It's emblematic of what the 911 Turbo is about. But you get a Turbo S for sub 100.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
hard to argue with. Maybe they continue to depreciate, but like that's
they-
just
they
so
will.
much car. Yeah, it's
They
just
will.
so much.
Why wouldn't it? Right? Like, there's no compelling reason why
Sure.
they like. This is a car where the experience is presumably pretty similar to what a 992
Yeah,
one
but
is.
they floor.
And they floor for
911
sure.
Turbo's
They
floor.
floor for sure, but they don't stay at insanely elevated prices because
This
the
is a
newest
car
version is going to be the
you
best.
would never spend the money, but this is
course
a
not.
car you could get and be
What do you
totally.
think the floor is? 70s?
But in a
what-
long
yeah.
time. Because if you think 996 turbos, they'll by far agree to be the least desirable of all. That's a 60s car now. So
For nice ones,
there's
yeah.
no way this ever
Or reasonable
goes
ones.
to. There's never going to be a 10K gap between.
Yeah.
You wonder if the floor is is like 80
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked.
Which man, so much performance
for
that.
90.
Even for 90. Yeah, I was
I
just.
mean, this car will beat almost any modern supercar.
What are the mods on it?
Miles were
Does-
55.
does-
it had
no,
an
mods.
accident. It had an accident in its history. It was a
the
rear
mods
end
are actually
thing.
okay.
Oh, yeah,
it's an
fast
exhaust and
exhaust,
PPF. It's like
Yeah, it's like not much. I mean, that's a lot of car.
you got to get it out of Utah though.
Yep.
It always hurts bidding when a car is in some absolutely obscure place. Not that Utah is, but the buyers of these cars are on the coast, and I think they're factoring in shipping. Nonetheless, this is a market correct result, and it shows the market is definitely coming down, which is very interesting given the level of performance and reliability and usability.
and brand status and all
Yeah.
of the things. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, all the things.
Okay. We will now move on to questions.
Ooh, questions.
All right.
Questions.
Are they good?
To get questions to us, we like to answer viewer questions. To get them to us, you go to carsandbids.com, go to the communities tab, and then you can ask. There will be a post there where you can ask us a question. However, this episode, because we are pre-recording it, we just took questions off of some previous podcast question
And people have
topics.
been asking great questions, so it's nice
We've
to
had
go
great
back
questions, so it's nice to go back and hit some of these. And we're going to do this for a few of these pre-recorded podcasts since I'm out of town. So there won't be live question and answer for the next few of these podcasts, but we will return to it soon. But
Excellent.
with that in mind, questions.
Let's start.
I will start with Zach N, who says, no hard feelings, but Doug cut me off on the 5 freeway a couple months ago at 7:30 in the morning in his Defender. Knowing this, who on the pod is the best or worst driver?
Wait, I'm sorry. You cut somebody. You passed somebody in a Defender?
So this guy says this was a couple months ago. I looked. I sold the Defender 16 months ago. So I don't think that
Yellow
this was
Defender?
me.
And the yellow one can't.
The yellow one,
That's what I meant.
I haven't driven that on the 5 in years. And I've sold it. It's now in New York, where it will never drive on the 5 again. So I don't think that was me. However,
It's an interesting question.
who is the best driver? Obviously me.
I've never been
No.
in an accident.
Let-
You have hit a tree. You've hit a
The
school
tree
teacher.
fell in the road. He did hit a school
Car,
teacher. He did
not
hit
an
a school
actual
teacher.
person. I hit their rear
You hit a
bumper
road-
in
you
a
hit a tree,
situation that
nevertheless.
was
The tree was in the
unavoidable.
road. It shouldn't have been there. The road is for cars, not
Right,
trees.
but you need to drive a safe speed such that if there is a tree in the road, you can stop.
No, you're not expecting it. When you're driving, okay, and you come around a corner, you're not expecting tree. You're expecting road.
Now, Filippo, this is yeah. So
So we eliminate him just because.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
no,
I've never been in an accident.
that was
of any
also
I never had
a
a school
decade ago. That was a long time ago.
Interesting.
But you know,
kind. I'm sure the school teacher doesn't forget.
yeah, she did. Yeah, when she took money from my insurance company, she sure didn't forget to fix her Accord with 250,000 miles on it.
It should be noted. Ken didn't run into a school teacher.
No,
He
it was
rear-ended-
an unusual situation. I came over a hill.
Too fast.
No, I was doing the speed. I was doing the speed limit. I
Too
come over the
fast
hill.
for
Traffic is
conditions.
stopped.
Excuse me. The
There's-
speed limit is in perfect conditions. There being traffic, not perfect conditions.
Not perfect conditions. They were not. It was definitely not perfect conditions.
Well,
It
then
was
he
really
would
windy.
argue you shouldn't have been going that fast in the first place.
Well, it was very windy. It was a very
We
weird
drive
circumstance.
more than you.
A lot.
What are you
more
talking
than
about?
you don't, dude. You haven't seen a C8 on the road.
Yeah,
You just admitted
You don't
that.
use the. You don't go north of the 8.
Yet somehow despite not having a commute more than a mile, we drive 15 to 20,000 miles
Oh,
a year.
because you're on the freeway a lot. All right.
We
fine,
drive
you can have
places.
that. You can have that. You can have that.
He does
the
one
answer.
drive from here to Arizona and back.
The answer
So
is
many times.
I am the best driver.
Doug
No,
is
Doug
a good
is
driver.
but he's incredibly aggressive, and getting cut off is not a surprise. He does keep. If you go on a drive with Doug, as our friends do, he doesn't think about anybody who's behind him. He doesn't think anybody who's around him. He will cut people off and
in a normal
through
automobile,
traffic.
Doug is a better driver than that.
In
Not
regular cars,
barely.
I drive pretty regular. Okay. The answer is me. I am the best driver, and Filippo
Respectfully
is,
disagree.
Filippo,
But be prepared to be cut off by him.
have you had a ticket?
No.
Oh God, it might be you then. Your insurer loves you.
Yep. My wife less so.
What?
The
His
insurer.
wife did hit somebody recently.
Oh yeah, that's right.
wasn't me.
Because of their hit a pickup truck because of their American plate. The guy wasn't upset.
That story gets too confusing too quickly.
Okay. Next question from Cyrus S. What are the craziest or rarest cars you've seen in the wild in San Diego or nearby?
Oh, I have the answer.
I do too.
288 GTO. We were both there, and we saw one drive.
While I
It
was
happened to
driving
be
the
somebody
Courage
we do
GT.
know, but it was like unexpected, and it wasn't at a Cars and Coffee. It was just he was just driving on the PCH.
That
He
was
had
wild.
got breakfast with his wife and went for a drive, and it was like 288. That was.
I was in the Courage GT at the time, and somewhere there's a picture of the Courage GT and
Yeah,
the 288 GT
yeah,
next
okay.
to each other, which is wild.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I saw a 918 once driving around.
F40 in Orange County was one of the more insane through traffic.
I've seen more cool stuff in Orange County, but
but in San Diego,
yeah, I
seen
mean, we
a
saw an F40
Mercedes
randomly, we saw a
A-Class.
Veyron randomly. One time I was driving in Newport Beach, and I went to get onto the PCH, and there was like a Koenigsegg drove by, which is like what?
Lyra, we saw
Saw
Lyra.
Lyra, yeah, just randomly.
Yeah, I mean,
I've seen a Shishi, a Ron. Shiro.
I understand.
Got it.
Thank you.
W16.
what's the Aston Martin Vanquish shooting brake?
You saw one of those?
Those are got
Yeah, the green, the Zagato.
Oh,
the
like
green
Cars and
one.
Coffee, it doesn't count.
No. You, Kevin saw it parked just randomly in La Jolla.
Wow.
I saw a Mercedes A-Class never sold in the U.S. Very few here.
Very rare.
Two
This
here.
is the thing. He doesn't drive. He's never been anywhere.
He only drives like around the office and where he lives.
It's here in San Diego. You can basically
And
see
Arizona.
just about any car. And one cool thing about being in San Diego is you get the cars up from Mexico, which are not sold here.
True.
And so we see weird stuff.
We do.
Oh yeah,
That Kenan has
Smart
never
Roadster.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's not Roadster here?
Oh yeah,
The Suzuki
at the Fashion
Jimneys.
Valley.
It's
Everywhere.
funny because I'm on these Facebook
Jimny.
groups like foreign market car sightings, and I never post because it'd be cheating basically. Like, and people are like, people in Texas like, I saw a Jimny. Oh my god!
It's an
You're in El
embarrassment of
Paso.
riches.
It's not a thing.
El Paso is common to see also, but like in Houston, it's surprising. You don't have to go very far from the Mexican border to really not see
Yeah,
that many Mexican
agreed.
cars. So San Diego, Tucson, El Paso, you see stuff, but other than
Yeah.
that, even in LA, it's actually
You
quite
don't
uncommon.
get it, yeah.
And but in San Diego we see them all the time.
We do have a rule among our friend group that you in order to say that you've seen a car, you must capture it with a picture or a video. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. So all of these cars we have pictures of, which is pretty great.
I did the 918 I saw. I didn't get a photo of, but I saw a
saw one
918 randomly in Laguna Beach, a green one that I do have a photo. Also, I don't. Who cares about the 19? Career GT.
Good question, though.
It is a good question. Everything.
If you want to do car spotting and you don't live in Southern California, you want a vacation to go see stuff, just come down here.
Come to San Diego.
Beach,
come
really.
to
Orange County.
Specifically, take the PCH from the 55 freeway to the Laguna Beach Town Center. This is what Kenan and I spend our Saturdays doing. This sometimes. It's from the 55 freeway and then go back and forth for hours.
Get some cookies. There's some lunch at pavilions.
There is nothing we haven't seen
grocery
doing
store,
that.
by the way.
Yeah, just get that and go sit outside and watch the.
Yeah. Or I thought it was at Trader
answer.
Joe's where there's that Aston Martin dealership.
Yes, that's a good. There's a little deli.
Right.
Next question. This question is from Elwood Cribbs, and I'm desperate to answer it and stop the questions about it, but I don't think it will. Question is, Doug got a Sequoia TRD Pro. Why not a Lexus GX or equivalent Toyotas? Tell me what to buy.
Can I answer it for you?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, the GX came out 20 years ago. Has no technology
That's
whatsoever.
the new GX, obviously.
Oh, the new GX. Well,
I have been asked this question, I think, upwards of 60 times now, and I've answered. I've been asked the question 100 times. I've answered the question on social maybe 60 times now. Why didn't buy the new GX? And I'm still replying to it and still answering it wherever I see it, but I'm hoping maybe this will help a little bit.
Oh.
The new Lexus GX offers an enormous amount of off-road equipment, which is great. But it also offers a third row, but it doesn't offer the two things together.
No over-trail with a third row.
You can't get the over-trail or any of the off-road hardware that the car has or the software with the third row. And I do a lot of off-roading with a lot of people, which Toyota apparently isn't a thing. To think that isn't a thing, but it is.
Except for the 4Runner, which is available with the row.
But not in the high trim.
Wait, really?
Once again,
is that true of the over-trail? Or
yes.
whatever they call it, over
the Trailhunter
Runner?
and the Pro, once again, are not offered with a third row. So Toyota screwed that up again. And so the only Toyota that you can buy that doesn't make you choose between a third row and the off-road stuff is the Sequoia, and that's why I bought the Sequoia. And the question, well, why not the LX? That's also in here. Too expensive. And then the TX doesn't off-road. And those are the answers. This was a really long thought decision, believe me. I don't want a Toyota Sequoia, to be perfectly frank. It is the only vehicle that really fit my...
When you ordered the Sequoia, and then a week later you had the GX press car.
Yeah.
And I feel like we had specific concerns about the Sequoia.
Yeah.
GX addressed none of them. It wasn't better in any
It's actually
reasonable
interesting.
way.
And people were like, you bought the Sequoia, then the 4Runner came out the next day. I was like, well, it didn't really happen that way. The videos don't go quite up that in order that quickly, but the 4Runner also didn't address them. The concerns were I needed a big car with big seating for as many people as possible. I mean, I got 7 seats in that car. I would love 12. Like if I could get 14 seats.
Design Columbus off-road would be the move.
Yeah. Or that 4-row Kia Carnival. But that's the answer to why I didn't get the GX. I'm sure I'm going to continue to get the question.
It also doesn't improve. The Sequoia ride not that great. Let's be honest.
It doesn't ride well.
It doesn't. The GX was maybe marginally better, but barely.
So that's the interesting
and
thing.
It's smaller.
Someone said to me an insightful question that I got. Someone said to me, if the GX was offered that way, would you have gotten it? I'm not sure.
I think it would have been a stronger debate.
It would have been a stronger debate, but the GX, it doesn't solve the ride quality issue. It's more expensive, and the third row is tight. The second row in the GX was tight. Yeah. And the third row is pretty tight.
The car seats are giant. If you don't have kids or not around car seats, you might not understand. Car seats are gigantic.
They're big.
Rear facing especially. It's wild.
Yeah. So I don't plan to own this thing for very long. 5 years maybe until kids are a little bit older and life gets a little bit easier. But for now, it just was the only car I could get.
And 5 years from now, if you're looking for a Sequoia TRD Pro,
this is
buy
the one.
Doug's. It is exclusively used to drive across the country. Of course, for 3 months of the year, it sits next to the ocean.
I have 160 miles on it. I've owned it a month.
You're at 160.
But remember, 100 of that was to Valley Center to film a video one day. And then you drove it like
3 miles,
6 miles or something, and it came with 11. So aside from that one trip and then the miles that I didn't add, I've driven it 25 miles.
I want all of our viewers to know that I drove it from mile 8 to mile 11.
Very proud.
You were the first person to drive it. I was the first one in the new Camry, though.
Oh, you'll forever lord that over me.
Okay, next question from ACOGER25. Ken recently reviewed the GT350 and was overwhelmingly positive, as was Doug in his original review from 2017.
The R, to be specific.
We both reviewed ours. With used prices sitting around 55 for a manual transmission, 500 horse, and a V8, I'm surprised there isn't more attention on these cars. Any thoughts?
That's an interesting point.
Yes, I think the reason and I mentioned it a little bit in the video, but the engines are not known for reliability necessarily. They're kind of fragile.
Had issues.
Then I remember when we launched Cars and Bids, we did a string of them. Had a lot.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
them
we
come
did.
through, and it was stunning the number that were like second engine, third engine. Like the engine had some issues. I believe there are companies now that bulletproof them, and like
And I think the
there are
later ones
solutions.
were
I think
better.
the later ones are a lot
Because
better.
they made it up until recently.
Yeah, and also, I know it's problematic, but man, it's such an incredible engine. I think the things to keep in mind are, though, it ultimately is a Mustang. So one thing you have to do with this is it's the stigma. It's like, do you want to be a Mustang person?
Yep.
Especially with the loud button, which is loud
Yep.
on that car. But also, the build quality, the interior materials are not all that nice. But it's not about that. It's about how incredible that Tremec 6-speed feels, that incredible engine, the handling that's unreal, the just millimetrically perfect steering. It's about the driving experience. And so I think the previous things I mentioned are why they're not worth as much. They also did make quite a few. And it was a very expensive Mustang. And I just think people are like, you look at that and it's like, I don't know, $100,000 on a Mustang. And so, but nonetheless, great buy on the secondhand market. And also that is one of the only American cars I've like truly fallen in love with and have genuinely thought about, like, continue to think about, like, I would love to have one at some stage.
Same. Literally everything you just said.
It is so much more. Also, compared to a regular Mustang from that era, notably more expensive.
It's just so much better, though.
Yeah.
I agree
It's so
I agree that it suffers from the stigma, which is sad because, truthfully, it's
good.
on a totally different level. By the way, I liked the regular Mustang from that era.
Oh yeah,
I thought it was a great car.
The S550 is a great Mustang,
But
like,
people look at it and they say, "Oh, it's a Mustang," and I think that always is going to hurt value because at the end of the day, it's not like the Ford GT is like a bespoke built specialty.
Yeah, really.
The Mustang, as
It's still
good
a
as
Mustang.
the GT350 is with that fantastic powertrain, it's a Mustang that will always have an effect. They built a lot of them. I agree. It is one of the American cars that for me
one of the
personally,
best American cars of all time.
Absolutely. For me personally, I have toyed with getting a GT350 for on and off for like a long time. I just don't want to have two Fords and then people. You love Ford. You're a Ford guy. You're biased.
I got two Mercedes Benz. It doesn't seem to bother you too
Oh,
much.
I am biased about Mercedes-Benz. Nonetheless, Mercedes-Benz USA is the only car company that will not issue me press cars. So my bias hasn't really gotten me.
So you love them anyway, but they don't love you back. That's right. It's one elusive.
That's actually they've lightened up a little on that recently.
So not to gush too
After
much
that
about it, but I
mattress.
really love that car and it is excellent. And so if you're thinking about getting one, if you
Totally.
don't those things don't bother you, get it. You won't regret the car.
Can I ask a generalized question? All right, GT350R is down, which is like the pinnacle Ford from the era that's not a Ford GT, down to the 50s. A lot of Vipers are like capped out at like have that same
Yeah,
Ford.
but
Do all like
the Vipers,
like large-ish production number American sports cars end up at
to be
50
clear,
grand?
there's
the
an age
Vipers have
difference.
There is no, but,
Yeah,
like,
big age
do
difference.
all American sports cars eventually end up the nicest ones being worth 50 grand?
Ford GT is.
Well,
GT?
but like that are
Neither one
based
of
on that aren't bespoke, low production.
But the Viper is kind of bespoke
Yeah.
production.
The
Still
Viper,
up
yeah,
there.
exactly. I mean,
Newer
you have to
ones are
think
more,
about
but-
like the Viper was its own thing. The Mustang was ultimately a hotted up Mustang. They're different, so I
Fair.
think that like those approaches. Are
You know-
Camaro, and
Like
Mustang,
Camaro
those are.
ZL1s are 50.
Yeah.
But again, it's like it's the hot
just a
version of a
cap.
normal car. M5's a hot version of a normal car. It's
Right.
the same thing.
That also ends up at 50.
I do think Vipers
Yeah,
are surprisingly cheap considering what they are. Just generally, just
Yeah.
across the board.
It's just
if someone
Yeah.
told me a manual V10 low production distinctive, like not a version of a Camaro, but a distinct, you would think just on paper that sounds like something that would bring more than the 35 to 55 grand that Vipers have always sold for. But
I
they
think
don't.
it's just because build quality is generally not great with Vipers. But they are reliable, but it's it's a car that you cannot use that often. It's like you have to really want it, even
Although Ford
new
GT,
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
one of the interesting things about Ford GT, I spoke to someone at Ford at some point about. He said we assumed that the depreciation curve would be like the Viper. And that's one of the reasons why it was cost engineered. They were desperate to get this original sticker price to $149,995 because they felt going
Is that
over
what it was?
Yes, they felt that going over 150 was just catastrophically insane.
Wow.
And so it ended up being 154,995 because they had this weird thing that happened with the A arms. It doesn't really matter, but nonetheless, they were at the price point essentially. And That's not what happened. But a lot of people have criticized that car, and rightfully so, for the key fob being from a Ford Explorer, for the turn signal stock being from a Ford Focus.
Yep.
Well, the reason for it, they were desperate cost engineering because the only cars they had to go on were Vipers and ZR1 Corvettes, both of which depreciated and weren't really particularly desired on the secondhand market. And that ended up not being what happened to the Ford GT. It ended up being kind of an interesting story.
Well, it turns out when you build one of the best driving cars of its era, it turns out
The Viper is pretty good drive though.
Yeah.
I think Vipers are criminally undervalued, and I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I think they'll go up. The market has shown they will not, but I think they are criminally undervalued for all that is all that is offered in them.
Yep.
A blue-white '97 GTS should not be a '50s car. It's just too cool.
Is it in the
Still
50s
waiting
now?
on a red version?
I paid $33,500. That is not a '30s car. It is not a '50s car. That should be a '100 car, but whatever. It's fine. I'm happy about it. Ken will get one.
More accessible.
Still waiting.
You'll get one.
We'll see.
If you have a first-gen red Viper that you want to sell it on Cars and Bids so Ken can buy it. Which,
Put in the
by the way,
tab,
brings us to a next interesting question here, which is blah 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 blah
Good
blah.
question. Yeah.
Where is it? Oh yes, from Not a Real Bidding Account.
Oh.
Doug, you have said in the past that you won't bid on any car that has a reserve. This question's for all of us though, because it's true for all of us. Is there any car you'd break the rule for? The answer, Not a Real Bidding Account, is the following. When the cars come into the site, if it is a car that I really want, I will tell the seller to go no reserve, and I promise he will get to the reserve because I will make sure of it. In other words, I will bid like I'll get him there. I have only done this one time. It was for a, do you remember?
No.
It was for a Smart Crossblade.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So this
And then
dude
what
was like-
happened?
This dude, okay, here's what happened. This is the problem.
Yeah.
This dude was like wishy-washy. You should pull it up. This dude was like
was
wishy-washy
the
on
second
selling his-
Crossblade
It was
I
the
think.
third Crossblade.
We've had 3 guys.
So this dude, it was this guy. This dude was like wishy-washy on selling it. It had been in our queue for like ever.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm not sure I'll get the money out of it. And I was like, dude, he wanted 40 or something. I was like, dude, go no reserve. That way I can bid on it, and I promise you'll get 40. Okay, so
I
go back
will
to
happily
go back
pay
one.
40.
I'll pay 40. I promise you'll get 40 because I know I'll pay it. And my comp was this, which was this other Crossblade, inexplicably, that we sold for 55, which seemed like a lot.
Yeah.
But then again, I thought 37 was a lot for this one, considering it had no title.
and no roof and no doors.
Well,
That's true of all of them.
yes, that's true. And no roof, no door. I think it's not a usable car, and it has no title. So you can't register it, and even if you did, you wouldn't want to
can't
use
use
it.
it.
So 37 seems like a lot, because that's like you can buy a real car for that. So 55 seemed like... So I told this guy, I said, you're going to get 40, it's no problem. And if you go in here, I bid hard. I went deep into this. And I got up to 38, and then it was such a...
There you go.
So here I am. But it was such a war between these two guys, 56 Mark II and
Man,
I
forgot how quickly they moved up.
I was
too.
actually willing to go up to like 42, 43, but they were clearly in such a war that I eventually just had to bail.
Yep, and the usual technique that Mark 56.2 used here, he went from 40 to 45, just threw it out there, and then again from 45 to 50. He was just losing $5 grand.
That's right. He went up by $5 grand. The other guy was like, 250, and the other guy was like,
$5
$5 grand again. Boom.
And it scared even.
56 Mark II. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he scared Doug away, and he
scared me
closed with another 45.
Yeah, he overpaid by God knows how much because the guy below, but he got it.
I mean, maybe it would have gotten to the same amount. He just wasn't.
Right. He didn't want
55
to
was
He
the
just
cap.
wanted to buy the damn
And he
car.
did.
And I hope that he is enjoying it in whatever limited capacity the vehicle could be enjoyed in.
I'm so jealous of that dude.
It's so cool.
That guy, 56 Mark II, one of the reasons I let him walk away with it also is because he had been the underbidder on the previous 2. And I was like, you know what? This dude really wants it. He deserves it.
Also, he's willing to pay 15 grand more than I am, and
I really wanted it.
I remember your
At the
text
time,
as
he
you
was,
went through it.
He was like trying to get like our friend Sam to go in on a deal with it, like split the cost and drive it around.
I wanted it.
I'll go to 45
bad.
if Sam throws in a
That
couple grand.
I'm so glad I didn't do it. God,
But man, it'd be cool.
it would be cool. Okay, one last single question. One last single question. This one is for Kenan from someone named Precise.
Oh, Precise.
Question for Kenan. I have 2 weekend cars, and I am toying with the idea of consolidating down to one car. The 2 cars are a sub 40,000 mile LMB/Caramel E39 M5 and a 718 Boxster Spider. The car I would get to replace them both is a 550 Maranello. The best 550 I can get for the 2 cars that I'd sell them for. I've never driven a 550, but it seems like you have experience with all 3 cars. From a collectability, ownership, drivability perspective, should I do it or should I stick with what I have? Also, with our similar taste in cars, are you tracking my cookies? Cars and bits.
You are a man of exquisite taste, I have to say. I aspire to be you. So the 550 would do both of those things at an extremely good level, and it is a very desirable car. That said, it is a 1990s Ferrari. You will have problems. The car will be off the road for extended periods of time. Parts are difficult to get. There will be issues you'll have to consider if that is going to be your only vehicle.
And it can't do
and it can't
two important things.
Well, two important it can't carry more than one other person.
Which the M5 can.
The M5
and it's not
can.
like a true sports car, which
it's
the
also
Boxster
not
Spider.
It's not a
right,
convertible.
it's not a convertible.
Yeah.
And also very relatively smaller than you would think trunk. Not as practical as you might believe.
Really?
But
No.
yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah, they have-
because
it's
a
weird.
huge fuel tank. The car is like because it's built
for long distances.
200 mile an hour cruising and all those records that it broke when it came out. So I would think long and hard about like if you want to deal with the Ferrari pain because it is going to be more than both the E39 M5 and the Boxster Spider combined. And I think, but as a driving experience, just focusing on that, it is definitely more similar to the E39 M5 than it is the Boxster Spider. It is soft. It is GT focused. It will not be as aggressive and as great to drive as the Spider, but it is a pretty beautiful crossroads, and it is more special than both.
What else should he consider?
575. No,
I'll tell you this. My answer to this question is I wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I don't think I
however,
would,
you have like
'cause
the
those other-
perfect
those two
two-car
give
garage.
you a really great,
And I agree with basically everything you said. Not the finance didn't come into it though. I do think that the long-term play, the 550 will do far better than any of those.
I don't know.
both of those
totally
two
Both
cars.
of those will do well.
Yeah,
tell
but
you
the 550
let's
is the
bet
Daytona of our
what we'll play.
generation.
The 550 is the Daytona of our
I will
generation.
buy the 550. You buy the M5 and the Boxster Spider.
No, I want to flip it. The 550 is going to do better, but I agree with you. The driving experience is closer to the M5. It's going to have more problems. So the question is, do you really want to go down that road?
But I will tell you, it is a really special car.
It is a really special car.
I don't. It would never make me get rid of my M5. But I think because I just adore the car. They're also like they're valuable cars, but not crazily valuable. You probably could keep the M5, but I don't know. So I think you have to weigh a couple of things. If it were me personally, I probably wouldn't. I probably would keep the two and
It's a
have
great
the,
two-car
the
solution.
two kind of
It's a
diametric
great
driving
two-car
experience.
solution, and you would have an amazing 25 years of driving bliss. But when the 550s are selling for $800,000
wrong.
in 25 years, you'd be like, "Damn, I wish I bought that 550." Because
Also
E39
true.
and 5 and the Boxster Spider just won't be.
Also true. So if you're brave and you want to have, you potentially have the Daytona of our generation.
The answer is buy them all.
Oh, nice.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for coming to our pre-recorded podcast.